With 2022 leaving and 2023 coming in as a new year, I felt it was right to make this video now. Obviously, it will be outdated in the future because GTA is not being done with updates and all that. They're still going to add updates within the next 2 years, I think, and unless they're done updating the game, or GTA 6 finally comes out, I might update this in the future. And if I miss anything super important over GTA Online's history, let me know. There is one thing I won't mention is money glitches because I don't feel like they're right to talk about. They kind of break the game and I don't like them. But if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like at any point that you actually feel like you should leave a like because it really helps. I've put a lot of time and effort into this video, a lot of research, a lot of gameplay, a lot of planning and all that. And I also have timestamps in the description if you want to go watch a particular year and how that has changed GTA Online. Without further ado, let's move on to the very start of GTA as we know it. On September 17th, 2013, history would be made. With an over estimated 170 million copies sold by September 2022, one of the most notable games would ever be made. That's GTA 5.
You're back in the game? I guess.
Yes! Woo! Welcome back, man!
Now, at the start of the game's launch, there was no online mode yet. It wasn't until 2 weeks later, October 1st, that GTA 5's biggest reason for being such a huge game would release. During the early days of Online, there really wasn't much to do because it just came out. Rockstar wasn't really sure what they were going to do with the game yet, but the first update to ever come to GTA Online was Beach Bum. This DLC had brought in some new cars, 2 new weapons, and that was really it for the first update. Now later that year, there would be an update known as a content creator update, which allowed players to create their own missions, and after that, they added captures to the game, which never really became a popular thing. They're kind of pushed to the side because no one really likes doing missions like that. Now another update that was added is Christmas clothing and snow, and that's really all there was for 2013. Now 2014 really wasn't that much of an upgrade either. This year brought 8 updates to the game, which sounds like a lot, but when all they have added is cars, weapons, clothing, some of them had all 3, you'd realize it's not much that they've added to the game yet. They also added Last Team Standing. No one really played it at the start when it first came out, but it would be a very, very notable thing in GTA Online's history later on. Now there might have not been much added to the game, but there was one thing that had changed GTA Online for the better. That would be launch glitches.
Not lift these fuckers' heads.
And we're out of here!
Now, launch glitches have always been a part of GTA Online from when they were first found in 2014. I don't know if they were found earlier than that, but the earliest videos are from 2014. They are still found today. They are not really as good as they used to be. When they first came out, or when people first found them, they were super consistent. And they launched you really high. They were really fun to do. But now, it's almost impossible to find launch glitches that actually work well. There is still a few out there that work pretty well, but they're nothing like they used to be in 2014. 2014 might have not added that much to the game, but 2015 would completely change that. Now, when 2015 rolled around, the game was slowly dying. Player base was diminishing, and people really didn't want to play the game anymore because there wasn't much to offer. However, there was one major update that changed GTA Online as we know it today. That would be the heist.
I know you've been complaining, but you weren't ready. You need crew to take a score.
When the heist came out, they're completely different from what we knew. They were really hard missions. You had the right people. You have to have people that had weapons, vehicles, communication, people that actually knew what to do. Now, that was a hard thing to do when the heist came out because people didn't know what the hell they were doing at all. So at the start, it really didn't matter who you were because you didn't know what the hell you were doing. Now, the setups themselves for each heist, they all had their separate difficulties. Some were easier, some were harder. When you got to the later heists, you realized that they're much harder than they were at the beginning, because that's how that works. But when you actually got to the heists themselves, people realized that they gave you a good amount of money at the time. I mean, now they're really not good at all because vehicles are, $5 million. But during the time, heists were the way to make money. They got you pretty much almost anything you could buy. The most expensive thing at the time was a T20, which is 2.2 million.
Wrong.
Now, the reason why this update was so huge for the game is because it brought in the biggest player count we would ever see in the 9 years of GTA Online being out. That'd be 360,000 concurrent players in April of 2015. Now, if it wasn't for the heist, as I said, the game might have died off, because the 3 updates coming after that was Ill-Gotten Gains Part 1 and 2 and free mode events. Those really didn't didn't do much for the game at all, because after those updates were done, Xbox 360 and PS3 and the story mode, as we know it, would be like stop being updated. They wouldn't be updated anymore. Last gen was basically done, but it would mark a beginning for the new gen consoles. Now, GTA 5 was already out on Xbox One, PS4, and PC by this point, but it wasn't until GTA 5 on last gen wasn't being updated anymore. Once that happened, people started to switch over to new gen consoles because they wanted to have more content. Now, the first update to come to new gen was Lowriders.
We out here gang banging like it's 91. You feel me? I'm a hustler. I'm a gangster. King of the castle, OG. The ballers and the vagos care way too much about flossing they lowriders, but a fool and his lowrider are soon parted. Smoke them fools and get gone, you feel me?
Now, the lowriders weren't exactly what people were looking for. The car community liked it because it gave them new cars, new vehicles, something they haven't seen before in the game. It even added a whole new website, which is Benny's, and those cars had new customizations. You can even put hydraulics on them because that's what lowriders are. It definitely helped the car community, as I said, but people that actually wanted to grind for money, they didn't have any way of making money other than heist, and people, by this point, kind of got tired of the heist because they probably have did them so much. And during that year, there was still 3 updates to come out for new gen. 2 of those updates would just be your typical add cars, weapons, clothing, and there were also festive updates. However, there's one major update I haven't mentioned yet that would change GTA Online forever. That would be the executive update. Now, this update, it really helped Rockstar figure out what they were going to do in the game. They had brought offices in and super yachts. Super yachts, we don't really talk about those because they're $10 million. We don't really want to buy them because they're a waste of money. And the people that actually had money now, they could buy a $4 million office, or they could buy a $10 million super yacht. I don't know why people would want to, spend that much money on those, but there's those people out there. Now, remember when I mentioned last team standings in 2014, how they'd become an important thing later on? Well, this is the year where they became very important. This is when a little something called Rockets versus Insurgents became popular. And if you were there when those became popular, let me know, because I remember when I was there, they were such a huge thing in the community. And to give you a brief summary of what they are, if you don't know, there's basically 2 teams. One team was on a floating platform with RPGs, and below the platform they had ramps. So the other team that had Insurgents, if you don't know what Insurgents are, they're basically really armored vehicles that take a bunch of RPGs to blow up. People on the Insurgents team would take the ramps below the floating platform and try and land on the floating platform to hit the people off that were holding the RPGs. So it's basically like one team had rockets to blow up the other team in the Insurgents, while the other team had Insurgents to try to knock off the people on the floating platform. It's kind of like that. And I'll show on screen right now what that pretty much looked like back then. And that's pretty much what it was like. It was so fun, but it was so simple. When 2016 rolled around, it seemed like Rockstar finally knew what they wanted to do with this game. They had started what we know as businesses. The first business that they ever had added was the cargo warehouses. Now, when cargo warehouses came into the game, it gave people a new perspective on how you can grind for money. Now, how these cargo warehouses worked is you would go on your office that you might have bought, if you had the money for it at the time. You'd go on your computer that's in there, and you go to the warehouses tab. And you had a choice between small, medium, or large warehouses, each having their own reason for, being there. Small warehouses, you could put 16 crates in them. Medium, you could put 42. And large, you could put 111, I believe. But the thing with them is small warehouses gave you the least valuable crates, meaning if you had a small one, you'd make less money from each individual crate. I think they're 15,000 each. Medium warehouses would be 17,500 for each crate, and large would be somewhere near 20,000 for each crate. So each warehouse had a reason to be there. Now, when you're sourcing crates, you had an option to source between 1 to 3 crates. Maybe even sometimes you got a special item if you were really lucky. Those ones are a lot better because you can buy them for 20,000, sell them for like 100,000. Now, when you're sourcing, you either get a car or separate crates. When you go over to your crates that you're sourcing, it'll either be a vehicle that has all the crates in it, or you'd have to get separate crates as you see now on screen. You have to go to your warehouse, you have to pick up a crate, go to your warehouse, go pick up a crate, go to your warehouse, whatever. Unless you did 1 crate at a time, which I wouldn't recommend doing that. Now, either way, you'd bring your crates back to your warehouse. Now, after that update, it would be the Bikers DLC. This update would be the biggest update for grinders yet. Now, this update would bring in 13 new bikes, clubhouses, and the 5 MC businesses. As we know, document forgery, weed, counterfeit cash, meth, and cocaine. Now, these 5 businesses were the smartest things Rockstar could ever have added at the time, because instead of having to be active with it, like you had to, for instance, for the cargo, you had to go get the crates yourselves. This is so much more simple. If you had all the upgrades for each business, except for document forgery, we don't like that. No, you would basically buy supplies, and once you bought the supplies, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. There is like a 2.5 hour cooldown for the supplies to turn into product, and after that, you just go back to your MC business and buy more supplies. Now, the biggest problem they had with this is the missions can be really terrible. Like, you can get post-op vans, or you can get planes, which sucked. And the other thing is that this didn't really help solo players. If you had no friends like me and you tried to sell with a full business, you wouldn't really be able to do it on your own because most of the missions are terrible anyway. But if you knew how to do it solo, it could be really helpful for you at the time. Now, the third and final business they added this year was vehicle warehouses, which in my opinion is one of my favorite businesses in the game. Now, vehicle warehouses gave you much more variety to the grind experience. Instead of going to get crates yourself, you'd go steal vehicles instead. And once you source those, there's not really any bad missions you can get. The worst ones you can get is the ones where you have to go get a cargo bob and bring the vehicle all the way back to your warehouse, which isn't that bad, but still, it's really annoying. But when these came out, it gave people just that much more motivation to grind for money. You didn't just have crates and passive businesses. We have vehicle warehouses, cargo warehouses, and the MC businesses on top of that. It actually had variety to it now. People at this time could see there's so much more potential with this game, and the money was so much better than it was with the heist. You can make it so much faster, and you didn't need to have 3 other people that might not even know what they're doing, because you can do most of this solo if you know how to do it right. So during this year, there'd still be 7 updates to come out. 4 of those being festive or adding cars to Benny's. 2 of those would also change how we play races forever, pretty much. Now, when Cunning Stunts came out, it basically added a complete overhaul to race customization, giving Rockstar and the players more variety to make races. They could really add anything they wanted. There was so much to do. It went from just driving on the streets to now you have these tubes, windmills, all that stuff. It's so much better. Now, there's still one more update they added that I haven't mentioned yet, and this is Deadline. Now, the reason I didn't really mention this at the start is because Deadline really doesn't do well. The only time it ever gets attention is when it's double money. When it is double money, you actually get a lot of money for this, and it's really fun. The problem with Deadline is that they really didn't add much else to it. When they added it, that's it. They didn't have anything else planned for it. If you don't know what this is, it's basically you're on Tron bikes, and when you drive your Tron bike, it'll have a trail behind you. And if the other people drive into that trail, they die. And you have to pretty much kill the other people with your trail. And it can be tricky because there's power-ups and all that stuff. I'm not going to go really in detail with Deadline because there's still so much more I have to talk about. So, with 2016 coming to an end and adding so much to the game, 2017 would also be an insane year for GTA Online. In 2017, it started with Rockstar's player base basically dwindling. They started losing players really, really fast. So they had to bring in one huge update that would help people that grind for money, and honestly, people, just anybody, it would just hype them up so much. They had brought in bunkers.
You want to make real money? Dirty little secret for you. It's in arms. Just routine business that needs a bunker, research, and manufacturing. Here's the Mobile Operations Center. You get the point. Cook up new, exciting ways of terminating people. then make a tidy profit and do the country proud.
Now this had increased the player base from about 80,000, so it went from 360,000 all the way down to 80,000, which is terrible. But that 80,000 went all the way up to 130k. It is a good boost to players, but it's still nothing like the 360,000 we would see in 2015. Now when bunkers were released, they weren't exactly something we haven't seen before. They were kind of similar to the MC businesses where you buy supplies and wait for the supplies to basically turn into product if you had all the upgrades and all that. Now the difference is this is a very solo-friendly business if you know how to do it right. Because if you buy one batch of supplies and wait for that to turn into product, you sell it and you only get one vehicle and that's it. Now it might have been the same in the money part of it, but the bunker added a whole new experience to the game. They allowed people to buy their first mobile property, if that's what you want to call it. The MOC is what they added. Now, this was basically a massive trailer attached to a semi-cab that can take like 60, 70 rockets. It was the most armored thing in the game at the time. I believe it is still the most armored vehicle in the game as we know right now. But when the MOC came out, you had many options to how you wanted to use it. Inside the MOC, you had choices between a command center, weapon workshop, vehicle workshop, and personal vehicle storage. So you could have one vehicle stored in there. People used it a lot for money glitches. I always said I didn't want to mention that. People used them a lot for money glitches. Now, not only could you have all that inside of it, you also customize the outside of it, customizing the trailer and the actual cab itself to how you want it to look on the outside. Now, going back to the bunker, they also added something else called research. Now, with the many vehicles they added to the bunker, you are able to unlock many different weapons and armor options for all the different vehicles added with the bunker update through the research. Now, the way the research works is on your computer, I can't remember what it's called, but somewhere in the list, you're able to change your workers from manufacturing, I think, to researching, or you could do it to both. And if you want to do strictly research, you can do that. If you want to do strictly manufacturing, you can do that. They gave you an option. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned that they added in the bunker update was the Mark II weapons. With these, you're able to upgrade the base weapons of the game to Mark II, so it basically made them a lot better. Now, it gave you much more customization to upgrade them, but you had to do research. Research can take a very, very long time. Now, you can unlock different scopes, barrels, many other things that can make your guns look better or, perform better. Now, finally, they've also added ammo types. When researching came out, people saw that there's, ammo clips in the research tab. Like, you could see that. People didn't really know what they were. But when we found out what they were, this is the list of what they are. There's tracer rounds, incendiary rounds, hollow point, armor piercing, full metal jacket, and finally explosive rounds. I'm not going to spend any time explaining what each do, but just looking at the name, it'll give you an idea of what they, do. Now, even after the bunker was introduced and added many things to the game, there were still two major updates that they would add this year. One being Smuggler's Run.
Oh, you're my new partner. You're late. What kept you? Business is good and business is bad. On one hand, we've got more orders than we can possibly handle. And on the other, I'll be surprised if we're not killed in the next 48 hours. Make the drops, man the guns, take out the guards. Should be breezy. They might have just a little protection. Okay then, give me a hand with these bodies.
When they added hangars to the game, it gave much more life to the game. They added 14 new customizable aircrafts, and it gave people more of a reason to grind for money. At this point, there actually was no customizable aircrafts. You couldn't customize any helicopters or planes. When this update was added, you could finally do that. Now, the aircraft that was added with the hangar, those ones had much more customization versus the ones that were added in the past. Those ones, all you could really do was just respray them. But with the new ones, you're able to add weapons, armor, handling, all that stuff. Now, the other part of the hangar, other than just being able to own aircraft in it and customizing, there's also a business part of it. Now, the biggest part about the hangar was how much of a disappointment it was when it came out for the money part of it. Now, depending on how many people you had in the CEO, say 1 to 4 people, that would determine how many crates you get at one given time. Now, unlike before with the cargo warehouses, you're not able to choose how many you want to source at one time. Now, if you're solo, this is the worst business in the game you could possibly do. At the time, anyway. Each crate would only be 10,000 each, which sounds good, but when the missions can be upwards of 30 minutes long for one crate, that's terrible. You would literally do anything else, and it would make you more money. Now, as I said, there were still 2 major updates that came out this year, one being in hangar, and next being the Doomsday Heist.
The data is clear. It's right now.
Avon is worried that someone's trying to start a war.
I'm not worried about it. I'm certain of it. It has to be the Russians, or the North Koreans, or the Chinese, or the Iranians.
We would need a ballistic missile launcher to have half a chance.
This cannot be traced back to me.
For all I know, you're bugged all to high hell and you don't even know the bugs exist!
This is the apocalypse. The doomsday scenario. Mushroom clouds, fallout.
Oh, it's supposed to be at a potluck.
Say hello, Clifford.
You're embarrassing me, Avon.
The Doomsday Heist took what we first saw in 2015 being the normal heist and improved them so much more. Unlike the original heist, you're able to do these with 2 to 4 players, which is a huge improvement, but it still is pretty annoying because you have to have another player with you, and if you're like me, like I said, I don't have any friends, and it's pretty hard to do these. The problem with the Doomsday Heist is if you're doing it with 4 people, it's not worth it because there's preps, which are like free mode missions you have to do, and then there's missions, like actual missions you have to go into. Some of these missions can be, you know, easy. Others can be almost impossible because, you know, they're really hard for some reason. But when these came out, they were a better way of making money over every other business. If you had the right people, if you had 2 people, they were probably the best way to make money in the game, to be honest, if you knew how to do that. But they were just so hard that it just wasn't really worth it. Now, after 2017, we would start seeing a trend that wouldn't be so good for GTA as we know it. Now, the past 3 years of GTA being out, there was a lot of updates. Really healthy amount of updates that was coming to the game, but that would soon slow down when 2018 happened. Now, during 2018, there was only 3 updates, and one of those was just your typical add cars to the game update. Now, the 2 other ones that came out this year would really show Rockstar still had ideas, but don't know how to execute them to how the players actually want them. Now, the first major update that came out this year would have added a business that was pretty much agreed upon by the entire community to be the best in the entire game, and that would be the After Hours update.
I ran the 1980s. I was the 1990s. I'm Gay Tony, and I'm back. Going back to what we do best, of dance music paradise. You can do whatever you want down here. Set up a hub for your other businesses, I know nothing. But get me a DJ!
Let's get to the disco.
Great music, great crowd.
Big up the London Massive. I love narcissism. Might wait for talent, but there's a limit here.
Spared no expense. Well, it was a cheap plane, but whatever.
Tony?
Yeah.
I don't think you can say Gay Tony anymore. It's not PC. The internet will go crazy.
When After Hours came out, we got the nightclub. I think at the time, we weren't really sure how the nightclub worked. Now, when you actually figure out how it works, you realize you need all the other businesses in the game before this. So Cargo Warehouse, Hangar, all 5 MC businesses. You don't need all of them, but you pretty much need most of them. When you have all of those, all the other businesses, then this will actually work. Now, when you get all the upgrades for this and all the technicians, and you have the technicians assigned to the right things for them to generate the right product, this is a completely passive business. You literally didn't do nothing for it. Unlike before, we had to buy supplies, wait for the product, then sell it. This one, you just wait. No buying supplies or anything. All you have to do is buy the vehicles needed to sell when you have more product. Now, the game gives you a Speedo custom at the start, which will, I think it'll sell product anywhere from like 0 to all the way up to like 800 or 700k. Then you need a mule custom to do 700 to a million, and then after a million, it's the pounder custom. So technically, you need to buy more things for it, but after you have everything, it's completely passive. Don't even need to touch it until you want to sell it. Now, this update also added one of the most controversial vehicles to the game, and that would be this toxic ass vehicle right here. Now, I don't really want to go super in depth with the Oppressor Mark II because I'm sure most of you watching know what it is, heard of it, and if you didn't, just know it's basically the griefing vehicle. Everyone goes to this because they're not good enough at the actual game to kill you. They need to basically have a gateway vehicle so they can just get free kills because they have no skill. But as I said, there was 2 major updates this year. Now, the second one, it was really popular at the start, but soon became one of the biggest disappointments that we know as an update. And this should be the arena. The thing with the arena is when it came out, it was something completely different from what we knew. It literally was a whole new thing to the game. We had never seen arena. We had never seen the arena cars before. We'd never seen cars customized like that. But the biggest problem with was the vehicles were way too damn expensive. They were not even that good for their price. Most of them sucked. A few of them were good, but most of them were just a big waste of time. And the other big disappointment is the arena itself really didn't do anything other than store vehicles. That's it. And another thing I kind of forgot about is the arena missions themselves got boring very quickly because Rockstar didn't really add much. I think later they added more missions to it, but I don't know because nobody cares about the arena. They failed with it at the start. They had potential and they threw it away. Now, before I move on any further, I quickly want to talk about PvP. Now, I'm not a huge PvP person, so I don't really know how it's changed over the years. Most of this video is off of memory, so I did go and research all the updates and everything, but PvP is something that I really don't care too much for. I can make a separate video on it explaining how it's changed, but from what I know, the early days PvP really wasn't a big thing. It's kind of just, you have guns, you shoot at each other. That's it. This is pretty much what it used to look like. But after the few years that the game has been being updated, having Mark II weapons, the Oppressor, all that stuff, this is what it looks like now. Now, as I said, if you want me to make a video on PvP, I'll try to, but if not, I'm not going to make it. But anyway, I want to move back to the main part of the video. Now, you might have remembered before, there is going to be a trend following where the game isn't going to be updated much. Now, this is where they're going to start their updates, where they have one in the summer and where they have one in December, which I personally don't like that much, but it's whatever. Now, the first half of 2019 was a very stale time for GTA. People were getting bored. That's right, bored. There really wasn't anything being added. The game seemed like it was dying, and it wasn't until July 23rd of this year that one of the biggest updates that they would add to the game would release. This would be the Diamond Casino.
Finally, open for business. Premium grade, utterly unique luxury, a wonderful place to relax and entertain.
This is Mr. Chang, our owner.
Tommy boy! Mr. Chang. Boom!
I'm gonna lay my cards on the table. You're gonna sell us your casino.
They want to buy this place, but first they need to destroy it.
Do I look like I make appointments, bro? I am the appointment!
Champagne, anyone?
The Diamond Casino added a type of hype that we haven't seen since the original heist came out. It brought the player base to almost 200,000 players, which is a lot considering that most of the time before this and after the heist, it was hovering around like 80, 100,000, somewhere in that range, and the game just wasn't the same after the heist. But this is what really got players back into the game. Now, if you didn't play it during this time, you really missed out on something special. This update had brought people together, no matter if they were toxic, if they were friendly, or if they really just didn't want any part of anyone, people would still come together. If you went to a public session, you literally see everybody at the casino. Everyone was in the parking lot. It was such a good time of GTA because I remember when this update came out, I was sitting there with my friends at like 3 in the morning waiting for the update to release. I had all the money I needed to buy everything for the update. It was one of the most best and iconic times of GTA Online. The thing is, this didn't last just a day either. It lasted almost an entire week of people just sitting at the casino having a great time. Casino had brought in many cars, and this is the update that really started the realistic look of vehicles. Before, they were realistic in the sense that they looked like the real life counterpart, but they didn't really have much detail into them. This update made them actually way more detailed. Now, even after the casino was added, there was still something missing. There wasn't a new way to grind for money. It was a while before people that actually got money, grinded for money, they didn't really have anything new. They were kind of getting bored. But one of the biggest things to GTA Online was going to be added this year, which is the Diamond Casino heist.
Time to crack that diamond, baby.
No, we don't kiss and tell. No, we don't kiss and tell. They wanna know if I think that girl.
That casino who would clear any one of us out.
To the beach and AJ coming with things as well.
Today, their luck is gonna run out.
Take her to a different world.
And we have plans.
You thought that I missed the drop, you're unwell. Big men, no, we don't kiss and tell. When the J's on my feet are from.
We have prepped.
Arm to the key like a vest. I suggest you relax and we'll lift this shell. The block that I'm from's on the corner of Bliss.
And we are ready to go.
No chase off, put the liquor on ice. Put it on the card, I ain't looking at the price.
At the party, my penthouse, who come?
Like a rock star, man, I live that life. No, we don't kiss and tell. No, we don't kiss and tell. They wanna know
if I link that girl. No, I don't, but a link rings a bell. Yeah, I brought Sam to the beach and AJ coming.
Now, as before, we have the original heist. Then we have the Doomsday heist, but now we have the Diamond Casino heist. And you might ask yourself, what's so different about this? Well, the thing is that unlike the other heists where you have a set thing to do, you don't have any choice but to do what the game says. You have almost complete control over everything. There is still some required preps, but it doesn't feel forced. You're able to actually do what you want, do the vehicles you want to use, whatever weapons you want to use, the approach you want to do. There's so much variety in this. And on top of that, you can do this with 2 to 4 players, and you get so much more of a bigger payout. The thing that has really changed the most between this and previous heists is that it wasn't just doing the same thing over and over. In the vault itself for this heist, you're able to get 4 different possibilities. Yeah, 4 different possibilities. You can get cash, you can get paintings, gold, and diamonds. Diamonds are a limited thing, but if you get like gold or paintings, you're able to get much more cash or much more money than before. That's why this heist was so great, because it wasn't just a set amount of money, it was always going to be different. You weren't always going to get the same amount. And the thing is, the amount of money you get at the end is all dependent on how good you are. That's why this heist is so good, because it's all dependent on you. You have the choice, you have the options, and it really depends on your skill. Since 2019 had just ended and Christmas just ended as well, their player base went from 140,000 to over 200,000. It's the biggest flood of players we've seen ever since the heist. This is great for GTA's reputation because the player count wouldn't go below 120,000 past this point, which is really good. Now, the first update that came to this year had a surprising impact on the game, even though there really wasn't much added. Now, the thing that was added first was F1 cars. I can see why this really impacted the game, because we never have seen vehicles like this. The F1 cars are like their own unique set of vehicles. They're not like before, where vehicles, you know, they kind of look alike, they're in the same class. These are literally their own complete separate set of vehicles. And they also had something that other vehicles didn't really have before, which is boost. There was vehicles before that had boost, like the Rocket Voltic. I don't know if the Vigilante came out at this point yet, but those cars had actual like literal rocket boost. These had like, I don't know how to explain it, they had like boost built into them. They weren't like a rocket, so it was very weird. But the other update that had came out was a summer special. This had brought over 15 new vehicles, which is quite a lot for an update. Now, after May came and went, the player base had dropped again all the way to 130k. It wasn't until December we would see that player count go all the way up to 260,000, which is the most players after the heist that we would see in the 9 years that the game's been out. Now, the big thing that came out in December of 2020, as we all know, the best way to make money as a solo player, KO Perico, baby.
Is this the right place for the party? Can we post? Is there a hashtag?
We're all here because of one man.
You're not on the mainland now, huh? Anything goes!
I've seen him going in like a trout, chasing some supermodel down the beach on a panther, mate.
I didn't understand a word of that.
Lots of guards, high-tech security. I need someone to rob it. You're obviously going to need a submarine.
Let's try and come out of this with all of our ears and a bit of suntan.
Now, the reason why this is such a special update, it wasn't just that, you know, it was a solo heist, you can get a lot of money out of it by yourself. It was an entire new island. We haven't seen a new part of the map since the game had came out. It was an entire new experience. It was an entire map to explore. And within the entire island of Cape Perico, you know, you had that heist, the best heist we've ever had so far. Now, for the first time, as I said, it's a heist solo. This really helped most of the player base because a lot of the people that were grinding for money were solo players. It was hard to get people that you actually can trust and help you back because people are greedy. Even if you aren't a solo player, it really changed the people who grind for money because now you didn't have to rely on others for you to help. So I feel like this update also kind of made people split apart at the same time, but it still was a great update that they could have added. Now, not only is it the best heist they've added and it's solo, it's the easiest heist we've ever received. There's literally like 5 preps for it that you need minimum, and the heist itself is so easy if you know how to do it. It later will be nerfed really heavily, but even after the nerfs, if you know how to do it right, it's such an easy heist. Now, I'm not really going to explain everything about the Cape Perico heist. I do have a separate video on that, going through all the preps and all that stuff, so if you want to know, go click that video. It's a good video. I go super in depth, so please go check it out. It helps a lot. And moving on to 2021, this year was pretty similar to 2019. The first half of the year really didn't have anything added to the game. game. That is going to be a trend for the next year and maybe the years following that. Don't know yet because, you know, we just ended 2022. But one of the biggest problems the game was facing is the different types of players we had. Almost all the types of players in the game had received something they wanted. The grinders, the griefers, people that just, you know, want to chill and drive around and all that stuff. But there was one set of players that really haven't had anything since the Lowrider DLC. And if you know where I'm coming from, then this is the Tuners DLC.
Come on up. We got something for you.
You don't look like much of a driver to me.
She's got this list of jobs. Something serious.
Banks, dealers, government. We sticking up all of them.
Gonna need a crazy wheelman and someone to run it.
With the right plan, the right car, anything's possible.
You know, I got that ticket last week. I ain't trying to lose my license.
If you is what you say you is, it should be easy.
Now, even if you weren't a car guy, this DLC was so good. This DLC added the auto shop, which is in a great business. They added LS Car Meet, which is a completely new thing to us. It's like an underground area where there's like a bunch of AIs there, NPCs that have vehicles in there, their own customized vehicles, but it's unique. We had never seen anything like that, and you can go drive in the underground area with your friends if you have any. I don't, but you know, you can. But with this, they also added many new cars that could be customized to look really nice. They added super realistic cars that we have always wanted. Not only that, you're able to change the grip of your tires. You're able to, you know, obviously have your standard tires, bulletproof tires, and now you can have low grip tires. So any people that like drifting, they can put low grip tires on their car and they can just slide around the city and drift and all that stuff. There's also another update that was added this year, which was a great update. I think this year was one of the best years we've ever had in the past like 8 years, I think, at this point. And the update that was added this year was the agency, or more known as the contract DLC.
Hey, what's cracking? Franklin Clinton, dawg. I'm the manager.
I'm a hustler that made it.
Now I work with rich folk who got rich folk problems, and they don't know how to deal with it. But damn, man, I miss getting these hands dirty.
I've been around Marathon, Compton to Avalon.
One big client, one A-list name, and we straight.
Okay, what you trying to do now?
What I'm always trying to do, I'm trying to work. You with me?
Yes, Lord.
Dances. Big shot, been the bomb. Make me reminisce upon. I remember me and Dog.
I like this.
Dickies on.
What was that, in 93?
You probably wasn't even born.
Dre, I think you need to trade the range for the
What's happening, dog? I'm Lamar Davis. I'm sure my colleagues have told you about me.
Weave through the weed, smoke trees with my seeds.
This DLC did something we really haven't seen before. From what I know, they brought in a celebrity into the game, which is Dr. Dre. I'm pretty sure he's a celebrity. If he's not, then I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But alongside Dr. Dre, they also brought Franklin into online. We had Trevor, we didn't have Michael, but now we have Franklin, which is cool. The biggest part of this DLC was the agency. The agency had many things like security contracts, payment hits, a whole new set of vehicles, new customizations for the new set of cars, and finally VIP contract. I'm not going to explain the security contracts, payment hits, or the VIP contract in video, but I do have a separate video on those, a video covering each of them. Go check them out if you need them. Now, I am going to go over the cars though. A huge problem in the game before this was griefers. Rockstar doesn't like people grinding for money, but they also, you know, want to help out the grinders since they hinder them so much, give them so many negatives they have to deal with. So what they did with this is they brought in cars that not only have a lot of armor on them, but can also get a missile lock on jammer. And I'm pretty sure anyone that heard those words come out of my mouth that can understand know what that means. Missile lock on jammer. So people that have homing missiles, pressure mark 2, I'm mainly talking about you guys, you can't lock onto these vehicles. So you can just drive around the city. And they also have bulletproof windows. Not really good bulletproof windows, but you know, they work. Now, the start of 2022, Rockstar brought in one of the most disappointing updates to the game. Almost anyone agreed upon this, unless, you know, you really didn't care what they've added to the game. But the start of this year, they've added expanded and enhanced. Now, anyone that had the newest Xbox, don't know what Xbox it is because I don't care, or had the PS5, they're able to buy the expanded and enhanced version of the game, which is $5 a month. I might be wrong. I think the game might come with the new consoles, and then you have to buy like the expanded version or something like that. $5. I don't know how it works, and I don't really care either. But in this update, you get access to exclusive vehicles and access to House Workshop. And with House Workshop, you're able to take any any vehicle, doesn't matter what it is, if it fits in the LS car meet, that is, and you could upgrade that vehicle to make it much faster. It's really expensive. I personally don't know much about the expanded enhanced because I don't play on PS5 or the newest Xbox. I play on PC, so this really doesn't matter too much to me, and I'm sure most people out there that have expanded enhanced, they really don't care too much about it, unless, you know, you're talking about the paint jobs that came with it. Those are pretty sexy it's pretty sexy paint jobs, I can't lie. Now, if you didn't have the newest Xbox or PS5, then the next update wouldn't come until July 26th. This would be one of the best updates that have ever added to the game to help everybody as a whole.
Breaking news. It is hot out there, folks.
This summer continues to break records for the hottest temperature since last year.
We know you're definitely not heading out of town, not with these gas prices.
It's insane! It's like I'm back in 1981. Oil tycoons are back in style. Which is good for business, right?
You know, Zero, that big oil company just got a shipment hit by pirates. We got a way to make bank off of it, man.
You ever heard of the Duggins? Oil and gas people making some serious dollar with the prices being high, yo.
Today's serving of crazy comes with heavy ballistic armor and anger management issues.
I smell a conspiracy. This is only the beginning.
Now, when Criminal Enterprises came out, it made everybody happy, mostly. Now, since every vehicle in the game that was being added was just way more expensive, you could literally have a Honda Civic, $2 million. Every heist, every business, it was boosted. It was money boosted. So they give more money. They give more payout, all that stuff. Everything before this had an upgrade in payout. Now, the one exception to this was Cayo Perico. It did give a bigger payout, but the thing is, they also nerfed the hell out of this heist, because the problem is, before this, people literally only did Cayo Perico. They didn't do anything else, and Rockstar didn't like that. I personally didn't like that either. I just did Cayo Perico, you know, all just pretty much what everyone else does. I got sick and tired of it, but I know I had other options. But the thing is it felt like I could only do Cayo Perico for money, because my option was there to do it, and I wanted to do it because I wanted to earn money fast. But the thing that they did with this is, if you did the heist solo, like most people did, you had a 2.5 hour cooldown before you can start it up again, which, if you're me, you like that because it gives you more motivation to do other things in the game. Let me know in the comments if you made it this far, if you think this nerf was necessary or not. I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to grind Cayo Perico. Shut up, you're lying to yourself. Now, moving on to the most recent update that was added to the game, which is Drug Wars update.
We're new in town, but we've got a plan. We're going into business, my friend.
You're not gonna join these weirdos, are you?
Now, this update was a little weird because it added one of the best businesses that we know, like literally the best solo business as we know, other than the nightclub, I think. But it was weird at the same time because it was the most lazy update they've added. Now, first they added a business similar to the MC businesses, but instead of needing multiple people to sell multiple vehicles, when that product bar is fully filled, you could do the solo. You customized the vehicle that you used for this particular sell mission. Like, whenever you had to sell, you had the same vehicle. It was a bike that you customized and has an infinite wheelie. Missions are super easy too. Now, on top of that was because all they did was add an area on the map, you know, another property to have. Everyone owned the same one. You don't even buy it. It's a forced location, which sucks. But the worst part is that they literally reused vehicles that they've had in the game before to make this update possible. They added the bike, which I believe is just one of the older bikes in the game that they've added previous. And they took the Brigade, which was added, I think, in the executive update in like 2016, and just put it in this and heavily armored it and made it into a business, which I don't really mind. It doesn't really matter that much to me because I just grind for money. I don't really care what things look like unless they all look the same. This is a little different to me though, so I personally don't care. But if you guys care, share in the comments. Roast the hell out of Rockstar if you want. That was a lot of talking, but that's pretty much gonna be it for the video. If I miss anything super important that I should talk about, if I update this video, I know I said I didn't want to talk about money glitches, but I don't really know what else there is to talk about. I couldn't really think of anything because I've been playing this game for years and years, and I tried to think of everything that was super acknowledgeable, but that's all I can think of. So if you guys can think of anything, let me know. And without further ado, I'm gonna move on to the outro. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn the bell notification on, and that's it. See you guys next video. Peace.